Hey sports fans, welcome to the Command Center for another episode of Coach's CorOner with your host, Jeff the Sandman Sook. Welcome back. Thanks for watching. Now back in 2020, Week 12, the Monday Nighter pitted the Seattle Seahawks against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this game ended up drawing a lot of ire from the gambling community. Why, you ask? Well, the Seattle Seahawks were a 6.5-point favorite and enjoying a very comfortable 14-point lead with just seconds left in the game until this happened. So Carson Wentz throws up the Hail Mary with about 20 seconds left. It's tipped and Richard Rodgers comes down with it. So let's pause it here. This is the point where Seattle bettors get very frustrated, and this is the 2-point conversion attempt. Now, they're down 8 points, so conventionally you kick the one and get to within 7. But Philadelphia, they say, let's go for 2. They hand off to Miles Sanders, and no one even puts a hat on them. So Seattle would go ahead and recover the onside kick and kneel out the game, but not before Philadelphia got the backdoor cover. For those who bet on Seattle to cover the 6.5-point spread that night, you went from smoking cigars to puking all over your living room in a matter of seconds. And it's not surprising that the next day, much of the frustration went towards Doug Peterson, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, for his decision to go for 2. However, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that teams more and more are going for 2 in this spot. They're down 14, they score a touchdown, and they go for 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out why, jump into the numbers to see if this is correct, and to see if you really have any reason to blame Doug Peterson for your loss that Monday night. Let's take a look down here. So what we've done is we've come up with a scenario to help break down the numbers for this move. And in this scenario, Team A is down 14 points to Team B. There will only be 2 more scores for the remainder of regulation, both of which will be Team A touchdowns. It's a playoff game, no ties. We're using the 2018-2019 NFL averages for extra point and 2-point conversion to figure out the numbers. And given all this, now of course it's tough to get 2 unanswered touchdowns at the end of the game, but given all this, the win probability for Team A, if you go for 2 after the first touchdown, is 60.5%, whereas if you play for overtime, go the conventional route, extra point, it's only 45.72%. So that is a huge gap. And of course, you know, in real life, playing the real game, you don't know that you're going to score 2 unanswered touchdowns. But the later it is in the game and the more evident it becomes that your route to victory is with 2 unanswered touchdowns, then the more that this comes into play. So that's why that Philly-Seattle is such a great example of this. I mean, with 20 seconds left, obviously down 14, the only way they were coming back was with 2 touchdowns. So given all this, you can see that it's clearly in favor of going for 2 after that first touchdown. Thanks, production team. That looked fabulous. So if you bet Seattle that night, you're probably happy to see that Doug Peterson got fired in the offseason, because after all, it was his decision to go for 2 that cost you the money. Even though now we look at the numbers and we see that he was justified in doing so. And even though his team's chances of winning the game were still incredibly low at that point, they would have had to recover an onside kick, get another Hail Mary, and kick an extra point, which isn't a gimme either. Imagine they do all that, miss the extra point, and lose in overtime. Anyways, the point is, he was still justified in doing it because it gave his team a better chance of winning. And at all times, you should be doing what gives your team the best chance of winning. So in this case, props to Doug Peterson. Having said all that, it's important to understand why. Why is it that when you're down 14 points and you score a touchdown, you're better off going for 2 points? And the easiest way to explain it is to say it this way. You have a greater chance of making that first 2-point conversion than you do of missing 2 in a row. And really the only way it hurts you compared to the conventional route of going extra point, and playing for overtime is if you miss both, right? So if you make the first one, which is roughly a 50% chance, then you're good. You've maximized your situation. But if you miss the first one, then you still have a chance to get it the second time around. And then in that spot, it's the same as going extra point. So it only hurts you if you miss it twice, which is something around about a 25% chance. So 50% of the time it's going to help you. 25% of the time it's going to hurt you, and then the other 25% of the time it's going to be no difference. So as you can see, it's way better off going for 2. Now, if you don't understand that, I have one more example I want to show you that might help you. So let's take a look down here. So this was a Thursday nighter late in the 2018 regular season between two good football teams, the Chargers and the Chiefs. And here, as we can see, the Chargers are stuck by 14 points with about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So it's pretty clear that their only path to victory at this point is 2 unanswered touchdowns. So let's see what how they decide to play this. Old man Phil's going to hand off there to Justin Jackson. He's going to get in for the touchdown. Now the Chargers, they're going to elect to go for 1 point after the first touchdown to make it 28-21. And then with 4 seconds left, Mike Williams catches the touchdown to make it 28-27. So then the Chargers decide that they're going to go for 2. Now, I have no problem with this play. At any point, whether you go if you're down a touchdown late, 7 points, and you score a touchdown, whether you go for 1 or 2 in that spot, I'm not going to nitpick over that. But this is an all or nothing play. So Anthony Lynn decides to go for 2. If the Chargers get it, they win the game. And if they don't get it, they lose the game. As simple as that. So let's see how it unfolded. Rivers back to throw. Oh, Mike Williams again. He's wide open. And that wouldn't be the last game-winning catch that Mike Williams ever had, as we saw on Sunday night. But anyways, as you can see, that was an all or nothing play. The Chargers do convert it, and they do win the game. But imagine had they gone for 2 after the first touchdown, and they don't get it. Well, that's not an all or nothing play, is it? Because if they don't get it then they'd be down 28-20, and they'd still have the opportunity to get a touchdown in a 2-point conversion to force overtime. So by going for it the second time, you make it an all or nothing play. But if you go for it the first time, then you have those backdoor outs through overtime. So again, in this spot, if your plan is to not go to overtime and go for the 2, then of course you should be going for the 2 after the first touchdown and not the second. Not that I have a problem at that time for them going for 2, but they should have gone for 2 when it was 28-14 and they scored a touchdown. I hope you understood all that. As I mentioned earlier, teams are employing this strategy more and more, as we saw with the Colts in the playoffs last year and the Eagles twice this year, even though they have a different coach. However, there are teams that still aren't doing it. And this is how we're going to tie into Week 11 by going to the game that I kind of alluded to earlier with the Mike Williams catch, the Sunday nighter from last week. So let's take a look. So before Mike Williams went on to catch the game winner in this one, the Steelers not once but twice ended up kicking extra points after scoring a touchdown down 14 points. And now we know that wasn't the right move. It didn't really impact the end result of this game, but it's just a testament to the fact that there are coaches out there that still just aren't looking at the numbers and pretty much just going on a whim. The NFL introduced the 2-point conversion back in 1994, and it took almost 25 years before head coaches started to realize that when you're down 14 late in the game and you score a touchdown, you're better off going for 2, which is pretty stunning if you think about it. I mean, there's only 32 of these jobs in the world, and this is simple game theory. But it just goes to show what a numbers vacuum the NFL has been in and continues to be in, as some head coaches still don't do it. So let's get to the best part of the show, the deadly decisions of the week, and we have a 3-pack for you, so let's get right to it.
Number 3, Mike McCarthy.
We got him, guys. We got him. Took all the way to episode 2, but we got him. The Cowboys, here they were facing 4th and 9 with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, stuck 10 from their own 42-yard line. Now, one of the things I didn't do a good enough job of explaining in episode 1, one of the many things, was how important the distance is in these decisions. So with a 4th and 9 in the first 3 quarters of the game, I'm rarely going to have an issue with a punt or a field goal being taken. However, in the fourth quarter, you open yourself up to criticism because of, desperation, right? So before I get into the obvious reason for why Dallas should go for it in this spot, I will say, look at where they are. So they're at their own 42-yard line. So let's pretend they go for it and they don't get it. In that spot, then Kansas City would be, around 42 yards away from sealing the game with a touchdown. But, theoretically, if you were able to stop them to a field goal or a punt, you'd still have a chance with 2 touchdowns to win the game. Now, that's pretty similar to if they punt the football there. I mean, if Kansas City gets 40 yards, then they're going to kill enough clock to win the game anyways. So you really don't have a lot to lose by punting here. And then the obvious reason for why you should go for it is, like I said earlier, desperation. I mean, you're down 10 points. There's 8 minutes left in the game. If you don't score on this drive, whether it's by not going for it and not getting it or by punting, your chance of winning the game is very small. So you might as well take the shot and go for it.
Number 2, Sean McDermott.
Well, Bills fans, I think you knew this was coming. Here we go. It's 4th and 5. The Bills were at the 32-yard line. They're going to settle for a 49-yard field goal attempt instead of going for it on 4th and 5. They're down 17 points with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So let's get into it. Here's the mindset that I have a problem with, and that is that you're down 17 points, and so many teams have it, this extend the game philosophy. So you're down 17 points. Now there's a ton of time left, but you're thinking, well, we'll hit a field goal here, and now we're only 2 scores down. So a field goal is actually really good in this drive, but in reality, you're down 17 points. You need touchdowns to get back in this game. And that's not to say there aren't a lot of spots on this drive where you would end up kicking a field goal, but 4th and 5 from the 32-yard line simply isn't one of them. And a big part of that reason is because the weather was so bad that day. So let's see how the kick turned out. Oof, that never really ever had a chance. So, instead of going for it 4th and 5, maybe ending the drive in a touchdown, you miss a field goal, and pretty much the game was over from there.
And coming in at number 1, Dan.
So here we have the Detroit Lions stuck 6, facing just a 4th and 1 from Cleveland's 26-yard line. There's 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they could take the lead with a converted touchdown, but that daunting 4th and 1 has forced them into a field goal. Now, in episode 1, I talked about how the difference between 3 and 6 points really isn't that great, and there is a little bit of utility to kicking a field goal here. You safeguard yourself against another Cleveland field goal. But of course, the main reason to kick a field goal here would be to push it to 3 points, and then you'd have the opportunity to kick another field goal and then potentially force overtime. Well, guess what, Detroit? Do you really want to go to overtime again? I mean, you're 0-8-1, and the one happened the week prior in Pittsburgh. So really, you're going to do something that's going to give you a less chance of winning the game and a better chance of going to overtime. It's lose-lose for the Detroit Lions. Now, NFL.com, they said that this lessens their probability of winning the game by 1.7%, which may not seem like a lot, but when you're a winless team, that is a lot. And on top of that, just the fact that you're making a move that's suboptimal and allows for a greater possibility to go to overtime just makes no sense at all. And, Detroit does make the field goal and make it 13-10, but of course, that ends up being the final score. So, in summary, the Detroit Lions, facing just 4th and 1, made a suboptimal decision to go for a field goal that also heightened their chances of playing yet another overtime game and potentially another tie. So, that's number 1. Now, I'm willing to bet that some people won their survivor pools because of the terrible decision that Dan Campbell made in that game. And hey, if that's the case, congratulations. Just to clarify in the Bills game, even in the most favorable kicking conditions, the Bills should have gone for it in that spot. It's just even worse given the fact that it was very rainy and windy in Orchard Park last Sunday. So that concludes the show. I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you did, hey, feel free to shoot a like or subscribe for Sandman Sports and Entertainment if you want. Or if not, that's cool too. And I hope you join me for episode 3. We're going to dig into my favorite coach in the league, the Chargers head coach, Brandon Staley. We're going to look at the good and the bad from him. And of course, we'll have some more deadly decisions for you. So until next time, thank you.